Alright, I really just want to reiterate this. Testing. I know I said it 2 slides ago, but really think about writing tests. It'll just make your life so much better. Here's an example of a test in my solution. So I have a class called Table Reader that's supposed to read tables. That's an example of a class I built. The idea there is it has a bunch of private methods. It has a getColumns method, which gets columns, which is some class I have, and a getNextRow method. So in this case, what my test looks like is I read in the file that I made up that's just grabbed from the spec, and then I create manually a bunch of values, whatever those are, and it's some work, right? I mean, it's annoying. Does this feel like real work? No, right? I mean, it just feels like I'm not building my table, I'm not building my table reader. Seems like maybe a waste of time, but it really isn't. This right here is the equivalent of when you're about to climb, clipping on some safety gear. It's the equivalent of I'm about to go climb into the subway tunnel, I'm going to put on a hard hat, right? Like, yes, it slows you down a little bit, but it's just such a good idea. And so in this case, what happens is I have a specific answer that I'm expecting, and I can call assert equals. And in this case, I can verify that my getNextRow method is working perfectly beautifully. And so let's reflect on this test just a little bit, right? So some key features of this test I've written. One, well, it's very limited in scope, right? You'll see it doesn't do a whole lot. It's not even a particularly exhaustive test. I could do more than this. I'm only checking actually one row here, but this gives me a great deal of confidence. You can spend a ton of time making your tests even better, and when you work in industry, that's what you're going to do. You're going to make sure that this test can handle, this test will make sure that your table reader class can handle things like missing files and malformed inputs and go really nuts and be more exhaustive. But the point here is that this is going to give you a lot for maybe, 5 minutes of effort to figure out how to do it, right? It's also a very low-level method, right? If you look at what it does, it's just testing essentially the getNextRow method. I have another one not shown that tests getColumns, and those things together just give you a lot of confidence that those methods work. Are the tests perfect? No. But is it better than having no tests? So much. So I think maybe this test took me something like 5 minutes of effort to create. It might take a little longer because you're not used to writing tests, but in this case, I actually had a bug that this test revealed, which is I had equals instead of dot equals in my value class. And it took me maybe 30 seconds to find that bug, right? So rather than me just like running my code and saying, oh God, something's broken, and trying random things and printing out a bunch of stuff, I was able to zero in on it immediately. I had a very specific problem. This test was failing. The debugger makes it very easy to zero in on that problem because there's really just not that much going on here because the test is low level. And if I tried to do something like print a bunch of stuff out, it might have taken 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to find the bug. Even worse, and the thing you absolutely should not do, even later when you get further in the project, is after you have your command line interface, you really should not be using that to debug. I mean, you might have to because you're having a hard time writing tests that replicate what's going wrong. But ideally, you don't want to be doing that because otherwise, it's like trying to diagnose, again, to pick an analogy, what's wrong with the bus that I'm riding on? I could, if I take the bus out for a spin and I haven't tested anything at all and I have any kind of problem, then I have to dismantle the entire bus or airplane or whatever. The point is, by testing the small pieces, you don't have to actually go flying the airplane to see that things are working. Because obviously flying the airplane involves so much setup. You have to type in a bunch of stuff. You don't want to do that. Now again, it's not a particularly great test. It's not thorough, and that's fine, actually. This is not an industrial strength test, but I think it still gets you a lot of the benefit, and I think you'll hopefully find it convincing. Now, one other thing that I should mention is that to use JUnit, remember that assert equals uses your dot equals methods. So you'll need to have those, and luckily we have a way to generate those automatically with IntelliJ. Okay, that's it for little tips here, but I just really want to emphasize testing because I think it'll make your life pretty nice. And one of the things I like about this particular project is it lends itself really well to this kind of testing. Okay, that's it for now. See you in a future video.